What's become the most expensive grocery item to buy right now? Everyone can agree that cooking oil is definitely on the list. The price of cooking oil has gone up and continues to rise exponentially. Why is this happening?
It's a bad situation. So I think firstly it's important to understand that the world is a system and that the oil within the complex works off each other. So anything that affects the supply or demand on the one product affects the supply and demand on the others, and the balance is affected in the end by price. So if we go back just a year back, then we will see that last year in 2021 there was quite bad droughts in America, and that affected the soya and the canola supply. So the yields were very bad. So then that affected that the pricing on those products started moving up, and the consumer market or the market started looking at alternatives. The one alternative is sunflower, and sunflower, which is predominantly in the EU, and then the Black Seas being Ukraine and Russia. So they were the market was expecting to take more supply from those channels because the crops looked good for the period. And then what happened when the war suddenly broke out? Suddenly that supply was pulled out under the market, and the market didn't have alternatives to go to. And then in the end, that means the only way to balance this out is to move in price. So the one aspect is the price moving up, but the second also the availability of sunflower, because there's a lot of manufacturers that on the product they specify they use sunflower, so they can't get any alternatives, and they in the short term have to pay the huge premiums to try and get stock. And then there's another segment of the market that can use other alternatives, and they then move to for example, to canola, and that affects the canola supply and demand, which again moves the price there. I think the important part is for us to understand that the impact of the war currently in Ukraine is they are supposed to be planting now sunflower. So the uncertainty of whether they are planting and how much they are planting, considering Ukraine is the largest exporter of sunflower oil. So if they don't plant sufficient product, or they can't harvest in September, October, that will affect the world supply and demand at least for another season.
This crisis is not only affecting households. Businesses are also taking a knock.
Hi, my name is Zakele Zaza, owner of George's Cafe.
Okay, and I'm Nozi.
We had managed to open up 3 shops. What that did is, we had to close one of the shops because now oil was too expensive, and like in this economic climate, people don't have money, so we had to close one shop, and we had to let go 3 of our staff.
So in terms of
terrible.
Monetary wise, I think if I could put everything into perspective, we Mascal, the oil was like around
380,
and now you think 380 is a bit steep.
It's expensive.
Expensive, and it went from 380 where we're sitting now
to
if you are lucky you get it 790. At places where we get it 790, if I hear, then we go your macros, you get it 850 to 900 bucks. So basically between the 2 shops in a month, because how we use oil is obviously drainer on a daily basis, make sure
try
to
clean it,
filter it as much as possible, but then you can only do so much. Baguette A1 that is it the
it can last
it lasts about
up to 4 days.
4 days, and then after 4 days you have to buy another one. So when you work out all of that between the two shops. So Sarah spent close to more than 12,000.
12,000.
Just on oil.
Just on oil, yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
It is.
It's ridiculous.
It's gone up from 4,500 to now 12,000
a month. Yeah.
A month.
So. And it's very important. You can't now use the dirty oil. You know, we try by all means, we filter, but you can, like Kitchelo, you can only do so much up until a certain time. Yeah. And yeah, so it's really affected a lot of things. Obviously staff turnover.
Yeah.
One shop equates.
Yeah, one shop closed, and then we had to let go 3 people.
3 people. We're really thinking about doing the shift, you know.
Yeah.
That way we can like save on cost, but that's also affecting, you know, people, their families, because it's their bread and butter.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous. I mean, we talk about it every day, and we're like, is it ever gonna go down? Because it looks like it's only gonna go up. It's really hard.
There's nothing we can do because oil is the basis of what we do.
Yeah.
We fry chips, we fry everything. So oil, like, it's something that we need to have all the time. So I think what we did was to like scale down, close one shop, and let 3 staff go. We have tried to think of price increases, but in this market right now, we can't.
They call
I think we are like close to giving up, but we try and self-talk. we are this close to just giving up. Sometimes, It
especially when the oil finishes on the same day for both shops.
Yeah.
Then we're like, oh my goodness.
That's 1,600.
That we need to part with.
Now, yeah.
And you look at the sales and they're not
that great.
Yeah, it's been tough.
It's bad. It's tough.
Will the prices come down again?
Cooking oil on the general market, the prices vary every day. So depending on how you buy, it goes up and it goes down. And it all depends on when you purchase. So it's very much directly linked to the international market, because although we do produce a fair amount of sunflower and canola ourselves, we're still a net importer. So we're still reliant on the international market. And that pricing you pay where the market is. And to answer your question, it will come down as well. If the market comes down, it must come down, because it is it's an open market, meaning if any supplier keeps his price high, then all that will happen, somebody will import it lower and discount the product below or at the right price. So that keeps the market honest and directly at the market price. Long-term effect in the market is that it still follows a cycle. So meaning when the harvest comes in, if it's a good harvest, the pricing comes down. And then if the weather dependent, it affects the pricing. But the levels are higher. And I think that's the main message I think that needs to be said, is that we won't see the low levels of oil prices that we saw 2 years ago. It will be inflated, or more or less at these levels and slightly lower going into next year. The main thing, if we go look at our country, so we only produce 70% of our soft oils and about 55% of our oils and fats. So the main investment from government needs to be investing in agriculture, investing into our farmers to get them getting the amount of open fields covered with crops and good crops, so that we can actually become self-sufficient and actually start exporting, becoming a net exporter instead of relying on imports. If that happens, then suddenly we are able to control pricing more locally than we are now. We are now 100% reliant on the market, and I think that would help.